Mr. Anshuman, the floor is now yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Chia. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Yes. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it, Mr. Anshuman.
Yes. It's a privilege and an honor to be recognized as a keynote presenter, speaker for this masterclass. So I'm really grateful to FMDV and all the other partners that are involved with the Smart Green ASEAN City Masterclass series. So my presentation here, without spending more time, is to provide you an introduction to the Subnational Climate Fund, which is actually an innovative initiative funded by the Green Climate Fund, which, as you might know, is one of the largest funding facilities for climate change related funding. I'd like to start by introducing IUCN. We are the world's largest, oldest, and most diverse environmental organization. We happen to be a global authority on the status of the natural world. We have global standards such as the Red List and now the nature-based solution standards. We basically advise and work with the secretariats of international environmental conventions, and we are an accredited entity agency for multilateral financing, as I mentioned, Green Climate Fund, but also Global Environment Facility, and also manage funding for ecosystem-based adaptation together with UNEP and other UN agencies. We are quite unique in the sense that we are actually a three element to our structure. The most important are our members, which are governments. A number of the governments in ASEAN countries, for example, are members of IUCN, either as what we call state members, that means the country's ministries themselves, or government agency members. Then we have international and national NGOs. We have subnational authorities since the membership category was introduced in 2021, and also local communities and indigenous peoples organizations. So we are a global intergovernmental / international organization with open membership. That's how we are defined under international law. Then we have these volunteer scientists who are called commissions. We have the Commission on Ecosystem Management, Commission on Species Conservation, Commission on Climate Change, which is the most recent commission, Commission on Environmental Law, Commission on Education and Communication, and Protected and Conserved Areas. And I represent the Secretariat, which is basically the part of the union, as we call ourselves, that coordinates the work of the members and the commissions and basically leverages support and funding and works with other partners to support the objectives of IUCN's members. And I'm based in Bangkok. So I'm part of the Asia and Oceania hub, but based in Bangkok. And we have 280 colleagues spread across the entire region, which comprises of Southeast Asia, that's ASEAN countries, Northeast Asia, which includes China, Japan, Mongolia, and the two Koreas, and then South Asia, and also Oceania, which is the Pacific region. IUCN has also been, through its membership, including ICLE, which you might be familiar with, and some of your cities, some of the cities might be also members of, has been working on establishing standards and tools and indices for integration, mainstreaming nature-based solutions into urban development. So we have these series of urban nature indices or indexes, as you might call them, and which are grouped around the various themes. And there are indicator topics. I won't dwell on this. What I'll do is I'll move on, given I have limited time, but you'll find a link to this tool/framework, which you can access later. Now, moving on to the Subnational Climate Fund. As I mentioned, it's an innovative initiative which was designed by Pegasus Capital Advisors, which is a green financing private sector entity based out of the US. Catalytic Finance Foundation, which was earlier called R20, which is basically an international NGO that supports cities first founded by the governor of California, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Gold Standard, which is an organization that looks at basically accrediting subnational authorities across the world. So the Green Climate Fund approved funding of $150 million for Pegasus Capital as equity finance and $18.5 million for IUCN as technical assistance to move ahead with this project. In addition, there's $600 million of equity financing that has been leveraged by Pegasus Capital for basically focusing on establishing a blended financing mechanism for financing bankable projects that are put forward by national and subnational authorities, and that focus on basically addressing climate impact, SDG related priorities, and nature-based solutions across 4 areas, one being sustainable energy, secondly, waste and water management, thirdly, urban development, fourth, sustainable agriculture. And the focus geographically is on 42 emerging market countries. In the Asia Pacific region, the ASEAN countries that are part of this initiative and that are currently active are Cambodia and Indonesia, and also Myanmar, where it's currently suspended because of the prevailing political situation, and Fiji. Now, these are a set of 9 eligibility criteria for project developers, subnational authorities to put forward projects to the Subnational Climate Fund. The call for project proposals is done globally. So the project needs to be located in a beneficiary country. As I mentioned, in the ASEAN country context, it's Cambodia, Indonesia, and Myanmar once the suspension is removed. Projects target one or more of the sectors that I spoke of earlier. Expected total capital contribution from the SCF is between $5 to $75 million. So the size of the projects in terms of financing from SCF can be 5 to 75 million. That these projects are replicable and scalable. That they provide return on investment. Actually, for private sector investors, including Pegasus here, they ideally look for return on investments, average return of 14 to 17%, which is quite demanding. So even though a subnational climate fund proposal might be shortlisted and funding provided initially as technical assistance for developing the project, including conducting pre-feasibility studies, legal reviews if required, environment and social impact assessment, there's no guarantee that the financier will finance it unless you can clearly demonstrate that these projects can actually provide return on investment at the minimal rate of 14 to 17%. And another important criteria is that the projects do not cause any harm from a social or environmental perspective, that they do not actually pose any risks in terms of affecting the livelihoods of people or livelihoods of communities, or even damaging the environment. It's important. Number 7 eligibility criteria is the project needs to be a greenfield project. That means set up as a new project where the capital contribution will support new activities, improvements, and constructions. It cannot be an existing project that is funded. The project has to contribute to climate action and positively contribute to at least 2 other SDGs, possibly SDG 6, water, SDG 14, 15, which relate to the environment, SDG 11, which etc. And they cannot only be projects that are categorized by the Green Climate Fund as category B or of moderate risk. As I mentioned earlier, the environmental and social risks, they cannot be projects with high risk. They cannot be projects like dams that lead to significant displacement. And over and above this, underpinning this is that the projects have to demonstrate that they will in the longer run achieve positive impact. So it is very important that at the design stage, project developers ensure that a robust framework is developed for identifying, actioning, monitoring, and measuring targets. You can call them objectively verifiable indicators or KPIs, key performance indicators, or targets that are developed, because projects will have to demonstrate that they'll be sustainable and they will create impact. The other criteria underpinning all of this is that the projects have to prove that they're bringing in something innovative, that that the project is not a business as in the projects have to demonstrate, additionality. That means that if business as usual, you have an existing project which could achieve something which is very similar, then the GCF or the SNCF will not fund that. It'll have to demonstrate that what is being achieved in the longer run is quite innovative and wouldn't have been achieved with the existing funding that subnational authority already has, or any other projects that are part of its work plan. So these are the various criteria of selection for Subnational Climate Fund. As I mentioned, these are the eligibility criteria of the projects. So context, I mentioned about positive impact. It's important, the projects demonstrate positive impact. Environmental and social management system, the projects have to be either low risk or moderate risk. They have to be technically robust. They have to be legally viable in terms of not having serious litigation or legal implications. They have to be economically feasible. They have to demonstrate additionality, as I mentioned, and that they are projects that are not fraught with lots of risks, including risks such as political risks, risks related to civil unrest, etc. And there have been cases where such projects have had to be moved into other areas, for example, and there are clearly identified collaborators or counterparties. And you'll find more detail on this link, how to apply for SCF. So as I mentioned earlier, the SCF fund is a blended finance fund with $150 million as concessional equity financing from the GCF and $600 million, which is more commercial lending, which Pegasus leverages or contributes from its own. Then we have the TA facility, which is managed by IUCN as the GCF accredited entity and also involves IUCN, Catalytic, and Gold Standard in supporting the subnational authorities in terms of execution. So providing project preparation facility funding, undertaking capacity building, helping them with monitoring, reporting, and verification. So the SCF, by and large, is a fund, blended financing innovative mechanism for facilitating investment to address policy barriers related to funding for subnational authorities, as in relevant funding, in terms of identifying key risks, encouraging innovative solutions, supporting policy implementation, including tariff reforms, obtaining government guarantees and incentives, then promoting sustainable infrastructure, promoting strong financial systems to afford private sector development, supporting strong regulatory and legal frameworks for sustainable infrastructure, developing technology sandboxes for sustainable infrastructure, coming up with innovative solutions, providing project development support, and furthering collaboration, establishing the environment or the ecosystem at large by engaging with other key stakeholders, leveraging expertise, supporting capacity building, and thinking global and building on strong regional and local alliances. Thank you very much. Should you have any further queries or you'd be interested in submitting applications to the SCF, please do not hesitate to contact my colleagues, Shizuka Onishi, who's the overall SCF manager based in Switzerland in our headquarters, and Dr. Satrio Adi Vichaksono, who is my colleague here in the Bangkok office. Thank you very much, Ms. Chia.